Hey, all you internet divers. Welcome to the world famous Facebook Live TV show brought to you by Divesoft.tv, Dive Talks Live. I'm your host, Joe Boscus. So, welcome to another week of our show of interviews where I bring in divers from around the world and we get to talk about their experiences and how they got to where they are today. This week, my guest is Alex Dawson. He's a photographer from Sweden. And last year we were down in Tulum together taking some pictures, and we're going to talk a lot about his story and share some of the amazing photographs that he takes. And yeah, we're going to have a great time. So let's see if Matt can pipe them in. All right. Hey, Alex.
Hi, Joe. Nice to see you.
Hey, good to see you too, bud. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's hot here.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't look like Stockholm.
Yeah. No, I've just arrived in Mexico, so I'm back where we met the first time, actually. And
yeah. We were diving together last year when you were when you crossed over onto the Liberty Side Mount rebreather.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, well, great. So, super happy that you could join us from the Yucatan and make some time for us today. We've got people piping in. Everyone be sure to say hello and comment down below. And yeah, so let's get started. Tell everybody kind of you're based out of Stockholm in Sweden, and tell us how you kind of got started in scuba diving and then got into photography.
I got started early 90s in Stockholm because we had a festival in Stockholm, which was called the Stockholm Water Festival. They had try scuba diving in one of their activity places. And so me and my friend just decided let's try this. And we were sold first breath of water. I mean, it was just amazing. So we decided to get certified short after that, like a month later. So that was a good experience.
That's so good, because so many people, they have kind of like an apprehension to the water, and I can imagine it's like, they kind of get scared of it at first, and if you kind of have a fear of the water, sometimes that can keep people out of diving.
True. I had that fear for sure. I still can feel like discomfort before dives sometimes, and it doesn't have to be like a advanced dive or anything. It's just, but as soon as I get in the gear, get in my undergarment and in the dry suit and everything, it just all that disappears. So it's this anticipation of diving that sometimes can be a little bit like scary, or I think that's how I feel anyway.
Well, that's actually really interesting. It's to be afraid of it, can make you cautious, right? And so it's and especially in Sweden where the water's cold. I imagine it's not super duper clear all the time, and so it's very mysterious.
It can be very mysterious depending on where you dive. But we also have extremely clear waters in Sweden, depending on where you dive and also which time of year. So, yeah.
So kind of what got you started in photography? Was that just something that came from diving, or was that something else?
Yes, it came from diving, actually. I was so fascinated by just being underwater. So I wanted to share it with everybody that wasn't diving. That's how I started. So I just rented a camera for the first time, I think already winter 93, 94. And I took actually a decent shot of my friend inside a mine. We were probably not supposed to be there with our experience and skill level, but we were. and from that point, I just keep doing more and more photography. And in 1999, I participated in the Swedish Championship of Underwater Photography.
Wow.
Yeah.
So so that's, it's interesting. Did you kind of focus more on the photography, over the diving? Like, for example, like doing training and trying to, go deeper and farther into mines or whatnot? Or did you kind of focus on getting good at photography first?
Definitely focused on photography. I didn't do any education between the year 1995 and 2008.
Oh,
And
wow.
even though I made probably like 100 dives a year. So I was purely focused on the photography part, and I felt that there wasn't really any need for anything to change. And I was kind of scared of deeper dives, and I didn't
Right.
like the darkness. I was more into what I call vegetable diving, like
Uh-huh.
in corals and stuff like that. But then
That's a good
around
name.
2007 or 8, I got introduced to wreck diving, like real wreck diving, during a good season in Sweden and a bit deeper, and I just loved it. And at that point, the cameras had also reached a point where they started being able to do what I wanted. I maybe wanted to take the images that I take today earlier, but the cameras weren't good enough. Today, the
Right.
cameras are starting to reach the point where I'm happy enough, but still not good enough.
Oh, awesome. I mean, it's really cool that, you're like, I need, better equipment. I know there was a struggle for digital to kind of catch
Yeah,
up to film, and that's a hot topic if it ever will catch up. But I mean, I learned on film first before digital. And so
yeah.
yeah, I think there's been, like you said, there was a big jump of
It was
where,
a huge jump. I realized in 2004 when I switched over to digital that I just had to do it. I had no choice. It was
mm,
just either I jump on the train or I miss the train. So I choose
yeah,
to jump on the train, and I really didn't like it the first at least 4 or 5 years. It wasn't probably until the Nikon D3 was released in 2008, 2009 maybe, when I got the first camera that really could shoot ambient light the way I see when you dive
right.
in the water. I wanted to capture what the eye catches, not with lots of strobes and other things. I didn't want that artificial look. I wanted more natural look.
Yeah, that's no easy task to really capture what the eye sees, especially in
No,
photography. I
yeah,
always try to, I think when we were diving together, that was the first time I started playing where I think we had a cell phone in a
yeah,
phone case. And I was just like, it was so
exactly.
exciting because I was able to take photo and video just like with my hand. And I think it was,
Yeah,
that was a good time. Let's see if Matt can start
yeah.
throwing up some of the pictures.
Shots that you took there, they came out great. I mean, they were really good. And the phone you used, I mean, they're so advanced today, the cell phones, the
Yeah.
cameras. I mean, they're totally amazing.
Right. I mean, who would have thought, 30 years ago that everybody would be carrying a digital camera in their pocket with them all the time.
No, no, and not even 12 years ago, you would
Yeah.
never imagine that a camera for like $10,000 is going to be equal to what you can have in your pocket 12 years later. I mean, it wasn't really expected.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible the way that it's come by. And,
Yeah.
uh,
So
uh,
God knows what the future has to offer when it comes to cameras. I mean, I can't even imagine. It's difficult to imagine.
it really is.
Yeah.
And it's I really like your approach, how you focused on your photography. I mean, did you imagine when you were younger that you would want to be a photographer? Do it
No,
professionally?
no, no. This was born together with the diving. It came with the diving. So it's quite interesting that the photography was purely just to show the underwater world for people that
Hmm.
didn't dive. I think I got inspired by the Swedish dive magazine back in the days. So yeah,
But and it's amazing to kind of fall into it, and how you started. You just kind of focused on kind of taking pictures. You really didn't do a lot of training for a while, so you could really focus on your craft before you started kind of doing maybe more
yeah,
technical dives. Even though I imagine, I I personally think in most cold water diving, I would consider that pretty advanced diving. Maybe not necessarily technical, but pretty advanced diving, because the cold water is just so much work. And I mean, you can see this photograph is incredible. It's just it's a very wide view, you know. And you can show the size, see the size of the room.
Yeah. No, that's true.
But all right. Sorry about that, guys. Looks like I kind of dropped out real quick. Hopefully, Alex will jump in. But I see that some of you guys have asked some questions. Craig Stevens asked, are there any advantages of cold water diving over warm water? Like I said earlier, I think the cold water diving is a lot harder because everything is just, you're wearing that much more gear in order to stay warm. And then if you get cold, it's hard to warm back up after you've already gotten cold. And so I want to see if Alex can kind of tune in and tell us a little bit about, taking photographs in some of this cold water, in those cold mines that they're diving in. All right. Oh, that was Matt. Looks like he jumped in. So, but yeah, guys, go ahead and comment and throw in some questions if you guys have anything Divesoft related or diving related questions. Let's see. Maybe we got Alex back. But anyways, guys, so it's really great to kind of have everyone on here. Looks like we're kind of experiencing a little bit of technical issues, but a couple of exciting things that we have coming up. We have continued to be in the process of, we're going to be trying to getting out to the West Coast. Oh, there we go. All right. Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back. I hear you perfectly.
All right, Alex.
Much better now than before, actually. Yeah.
Okay, good. Otherwise, everyone would have to hear me ramble on, and that can get old fast. So we had a really good question about, like I was saying about cold water diving. Could you tell us, are there, how does it compare cold water diving versus warm water diving and taking pictures in some of the sites that you're at?
I think the temperature doesn't really matter that much, except if you get extremely long exposure times, like let's say over 100 minutes. Then fingers might start getting really cold and things like that. And of course, the motor skills gets worse when your fingers gets cold.
Right.
That's maybe the biggest issue. Otherwise, I would say I see more advantages in cold water than disadvantages.
Huh. Interesting. I definitely would have. I know that when it comes to cold water, I have a hard time, and so I have a lot of respect for cold water diving.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Can you say that again? It cut a little bit, right?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of respect for cold water diving. I've been spoiled here in warm Florida water, and so.
Yeah, you should definitely try cold water diving. I mean, it's one of the beauties, of course, especially in Sweden anyway, is that during the cold season, we get much clearer water, and clear water helps me take the grand views that I like shooting with big perspectives and stuff like that. So that's one advantage. The second advantage is getting dressed in a cold environment is much nicer because you're dressing up to stay in like a 4-degree water for like 2-3 hours maybe. And if it's 30 degrees on the surface, the amount of sweating you would be doing in the dry suit before entering the water would make you freeze much faster on the dive instead. So
yeah.
So I find that being in a cold environment and diving in cold waters is not that bad. I mean, of course, if you're diving a tropical environment when you maybe don't need a dry suit when it's warm in the air, then it's fine. But otherwise, to have to dive in a dry suit, let's say Sweden in the summer when it's 25 degrees and you get dressed.
Yeah.
That can be a pain in the ass. And then you get down to the cold water under the thermocline where
Right.
it's 4 degrees down there during the maybe say bottom time at the wreck or something for half an hour or something. And then you do all the decompression in warm water, which is kind of nice. But it's
Yeah.
really shocking coming from 25, 30 degrees on the surface and all the gear and
Mhm.
all the undergarments and everything, and then you hit that 4 degree water, and it really punches you in the face then.
I know. We have a lot of quarry diving and lake diving in Texas, and so we have those like really big thermoclines, and
Yeah,
so you'll see the thermocline, and you're just like, ah, no, that's okay, ah.
yeah.
So you're just ready for the bite.
Yeah. It's pretty terrible when it's a couple of degrees difference in the thermocline. It hits you bad.
The so speaking of kind of cold water diving and shipwrecks, so can you tell me a little bit about the you guys don't have any caves in Sweden.
No.
So can you tell me a little bit about the mines? Is it the same thing? How are they different?
Yeah, we have lots of mines. I would say mines and caves are fairly same. I mean, what some of the mines that I dive in, they have big rooms like between all the connecting corridors and stuff. I don't know what it's called in English, but like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know the English term for that. But where caves are usually maybe more, especially here in Mexico, I think they're quite similar all the time. It can vary a little bit in the size, and sometimes you get larger rooms, but in the mines they can be really really huge. And some of the mines we're diving in, they are also or one of the mines, adventure mine that I dived in, it's a 45-degree angle on how they have took out the ore from the mine,
Okay.
and it makes it very interesting with all these slanted ceilings everywhere, and some rooms can be 20 meters floor to ceiling height. So you get these really
Wow.
grand spaces and fantastic visibility. And I would say the best thing with mines, also with caves, then, but is that the dive circumstances is always the same, so you can always dive. It's not like
Oh, the
going out.
conditions. Yeah.
The
They don't change
conditions,
very
exactly.
much.
Of course they don't. Yeah, they don't change at all. So that's the beauty. If you plan a dive, you know you're gonna dive. If you're planning a boat dive going far out, let's say 20 nautical miles off the coast in Sweden to go for a really nice deep wreck dive in good visibility, half of the times or two-thirds of the times you have to cancel the trip because it's too windy, or
Yeah.
yeah, because it gets quite rough in the Baltic Sea when it's windy. So there are so many advantages, and before I started mine diving, I just got certified about 1.5 years ago, so I'm quite new to cave and mine diving. But
Interesting. Yeah.
I've been diving limestone quarries since, yeah, already when I took my first shot, like I told you earlier. And so I've always seen limestone quarries as my playground. It's been my swimming pool, my training ground. So we
Mm-hmm.
have a place in about 70 kilometers south of Stockholm called Vagnhärad, where I've done so many dives. I don't know how many hundred dives and hours I've spent there, but it's been a training ground. It's
Yeah.
usually 10 meters visibility, so it's not terrible. You do inner archipelago dive in Sweden, sometimes you can have very, very, very low visibility. So the quarry was kind of a safe zone because you need a little bit of visibility to be able to do the training. Since I'm not shooting macro and I'm not shooting medium range either, it's like super wide or fisheye.
Right. And
Yeah,
I'd love to kind of chat about like how this picture, because like exactly how you say, you're not shooting macro, you're shooting very wide scenes. It's almost like it's what a diver would see there. And all the light that you see in the image is artificial. And so
yeah.
how is that like kind of lighting up the cave?
It took a lot of training in the beginning. It was so difficult the first times, I
Right.
realized. but I invented a couple of techniques where I created these floating lights that I'm using these days. And so in a cave, you can of course place them in the ceiling because you always have a ceiling above your head. So you
Yeah.
can use that to your advantage instead and stage it like a stage, basically, like on a concert or something like that. So I actually got inspired during a Christmas concert a couple of years ago for beautiful lighting for my diving photography. So I kind of took that staged Christmas show on the underwater diving photography, and it works pretty well, I have to say.
Yeah, it looks pretty. It looks like it works fantastic. You know, it's
Yeah.
and these aren't strobes, right?
No,
Do
it's
you ever use
continuous
strobes?
lighting. I think I stopped using strobes almost 15 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah, almost 15 years ago, I stopped using strobes. So I only use continuous video lights at the moment. Yeah.
So, and how is it kind of coordinating the divers to go where you want them to go? Like,
Um,
does it entail a lot of briefing and a lot of planning?
yeah, yes and no. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I like to if we're a couple of friends going out just for diving a weekend, it's not always I like want to sit and brief them for like an hour of what we're gonna do, because I feel quite guilty about that many times. And but then I have some dive buddies that like they are really inspired by themselves that we do that, and they really seem to enjoy it anyway. That's what they say anyway.
Hmm.
And then I can relax a little bit more, and then we actually plan some shots where we everything is directed, and that's the greatest shots that come out, because you cannot just dive and expect to shoot on the fly. Because I mean, if you're gonna shoot astonishing images, astonishing images are only produced by really diving a place many times over and over and over again,
Hmm.
and fine tuning every time, lots of briefings, lots of debriefings, and that's how you create perfection. And of course, when I'm not diving, my mind is on the image 24/7
Right.
all year round. So it's constantly evolving, and a constant process, changes all the time. Also, I mean, my my goals change over time, because you might have something that you've been thinking of for a couple of years. I really
Yeah.
want to do this, and then you do it, and you're like, oh, that wasn't that spectacular. And then, but then you have five other ideas that you can kind of move on to, and then you can drop that one, and then maybe you try that idea again 5 years later, because maybe the cameras have gotten better, or you have better video lights, or you've discovered a new technique for something else, and then you can recreate it. So some of my images are maybe old ideas that
Oh,
I've been
that's
maybe
cool.
having the idea for like 10, 15 years, but
Uh-huh.
it hasn't happened. And then it actually finally, I'm there in my education, I'm there in my equipment and knowledge and experience, and I'm there with the right equipment finally, I mean, camera. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like the stars finally
it's
align.
yeah, it takes time. It's possible what I'm going to be shooting in a few years, because I mean, right now I'm shooting a lot with off-camera lighting, as I call it, and
Hmm.
I will probably get bored of that. But that's probably a problem, because in 10 years you'll be able to basically swim with night goggles in a cave and just use the zero photons that are available basically for photography, because the sensors are probably going to be that big. I
Yeah.
mean that great. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes in the future, and
Yeah,
what we can. Yeah, yeah,
it's really I think I always love asking to see, like, okay, how has the shift changed from what like a lot of the underwater cameras used to be when you started versus where they are today, and it's so cool seeing the perspective.
yeah. How they have changed.
Right, right, like how they've
Yeah,
changed,
yeah,
how the cameras have changed
yeah,
the lighting.
yeah. The sensors have, of course, become ridiculously good these days. The autofocus systems are 100 times better than they were in the beginning. Uh, Battery life is definitely getting better and better on digital.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
I'm shooting Nikon, so it's never really been a problem on Nikon cameras. I can get like 3,000 exposures out of a battery, but with some of the mirrorless cameras that people are
Hmm.
using, it's still a huge problem. You can be limited maybe 400 exposures. If I
Oh
have a
wow.
good dive, if I have a good dive where everything is planned according to that we're gonna do a certain shoot, and we have like 5 scenes we're gonna set during a dive, and we do a 2 hour dive, I can easily blow off 2,000 exposures in a dive. That's not
Wow.
uncommon. So and that kind of limits me to use mirrorless cameras for that kind of purpose at the moment.
Oh, it's yeah, that's really
Yeah,
interesting. It's
yeah,
yeah, it's a big shift in the difference of your capabilities and whatnot.
yes, yeah.
And
So I'm still using a DSLR, regular old um, single reflex camera
hmm
with a
hmm
mirror flapping up and down, up and down.
now it's and like you said, like you recently got completed your cave training, and then
Yeah.
um, how's been that experience of you have the training and you can see how much work these dives take in order to get like good composition.
Yeah.
How do you kind of balance and staying sharp with developing good composition in these kind of somewhat newish environments like caves?
Yeah, that's been a challenge. I've been
Hmm.
training a lot in the adventure mine in Sweden this past 1.5 years, basically. And in the beginning, I didn't bring so much lights and stuff. I tried to keep the load down to basically just having the camera. That was all that I had to carry. And of course,
Hmm.
I can always hook it up somewhere and focus 100% on the diving and stuff like that. But that mine particular, in my mind anyway, is extremely easy navigation because it's one of these 45-degree angle how they take the ore out of the mountain. And
Right.
so that one is very easy to navigate in, and it's different levels. You have like 30, the first stage is what we call it is 35 meters, and I basically know every corner inside and out there. So it feels kind of, you kind of can let go of navigation is not really an issue, and I have a very good sense of direction also. So that part is easy to go of, and then the other diving parts is it's so natural. I mean, I've been diving almost 30 years now, even though I've only been 6 years on a rebreather,
Hmm.
but it's I mean, I'm using the Divesoft Liberty side, and I think I have almost maybe 100 hours on the unit already since,
Right. Yeah,
even though I've
you've
only had
definitely
it for,
put some time.
yeah, even though I've just had it for like 6 months or something like that. But I feel totally comfortable with the unit, and it does its thing. I mean, I constantly monitor my computer, even
Hmm.
though I have a hood, because I'm kind of cautious when I'm diving, even though people might think that I'm not. But I really like to be in control of safety all the time, even though I might seem very focused on the photography.
I mean,
But
that's somewhat
what I
important,
like,
right?
yeah, yeah. But that's also what I like about the ECCRs. I mean, even though I like to shoot manual oxygen into the loop and things like that, I like to have a system that takes care of me if I lose focus too long or if I get too absorbed in a photography moment or something. That's where the CCR kicks in, and yeah, it's just I couldn't be without an ECCR. It's
Now,
just how it is.
so
Yeah.
that's a really interesting kind of take. And so, how does it, how's the difference? What's the differences between when you were doing a lot of this very complex compositions underwater on open circuit versus on closed circuit?
Oh, the the biggest difference is those bubbles. They make me I don't know. I totally don't like bubbles. They distract me crazy much, and
Oh,
especially inside a mine or inside a cave, because when they go up in the ceiling and they work their way out of the mine or cave, it makes a lot of noise and it's almost like thunder times. I mean, I don't like any of it.
That's funny.
The science is really nice. The warm, humid air is or warmer, humid gas that you breathe is, of course, much nicer, and you stay warmer for sure on the unit on the CCR compared to open circuit. Yeah.
So it definitely is kind of like a must-have tool for your photography. Is that correct?
I would say I cannot see myself doing photography on open circuit. I do some dives. Like sometimes I go to countries where they don't allow rebreathers, like in Jordan, they are not allowed at the moment. So I have to dive open circuit there, and I go there quite a lot. And it takes a few dives to get used to. Of course, there are advantages with open circuit, but if I could bring my Liberty side mount there, I would do it without it. It would come the first trip.
And how are you liking the side mount rebreather compared to with the back mount rebreathers?
I really, I don't know if I can say so much about the side mount rebreather really, but I just love diving side mount. It's totally amazing. It's the first time I tried it. I think it was with Ed Stockdale in Långband mine in Sweden last autumn. Yeah, and I think I did a 12-minute dive with him or something like that. It was just to test the unit, and I just loved it the first second. It's the first time ever I tried side mount, and it felt so natural. It felt so. I was just like, this is heaven. And it's also, I have a little bit of back problems, and the side mount unit is king for that. And of course, having a unit that just weighs like a stage tank instead of my old machine, I think I had an 8-kilo backplate on it and weights on it. I think it was like 45 kilos or something like that. So I use a lot of weight. So that's, of course, I have to use 14 kilos of weight when I dive the side mount in my side mount harness. So I have a lot of weight on my side mount harness.
Right. I mean,
which is not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, with heavy undergarments and whatnot, and so
yeah, exactly. Lots of layers.
So it's like you were saying, how with the mines that you really get to know them really well, and then what about like kind of going to new sites and whatnot? What does that usually involve? Are you diving just with one other partner, or do you have other people with you, like guides or whatnot? How would you do that?
You mean if I go to a new place in Sweden or abroad?
Or abroad.
Yeah, abroad. For most of my photo shoots, that's like for work, I more or less always have a deal with the contractor that I can bring my own model. That's it's usually because having a diver that is used to being photographed, or somebody that you're used to diving with, that know my language and I know that person's language, it helps me so much. That's key. I can't just go to a liveaboard in French Polynesia and just, I'll dive with the dive master. He's a great diver. I won't get good images that way. It takes training, it takes teamwork, and it takes experience together. So you really have to find some people that like working with you and that you like working with also, and just try to build something out of that, I would say. And if I come alone, then usually my outcome of images is not that great, I have to say.
Interesting,
Yeah, because even if I just dive in a group with a dive master and a couple of other divers, it's that I get stressed about I'm not following the group. They keep, come on, he's waiting faster, because divers always want to move underwater. I do not mind staying in one place.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to see, especially on the details, and especially if you're playing with lighting, you can really paint the cave to look differently. I mean, you can see here on this image the greens. Now, how do you do that? Is that is that a post-production thing, or is like when you add like kind of color like this, or is it just the reflections?
I can't see the image, so I don't know which one you're talking about. So that makes it a bit difficult for me. But
a little difficult. No,
yeah,
it's just you know, that wide scale. It seems like it's very. I feel like it's unique in the caves sometimes because you can really see how big the caves are.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm trying to. The eye is so advanced, and we have this like more than 180-degree vision always when we're just diving.
Hmm.
And I'm really trying to catch what the eye sees, and that's why I like these extreme wide shots. And in a cave, of course, you have to use a lot of lighting just because it's pitch black otherwise. And I like to keep my divers in a far distance usually because that gives a great depth of field, I think, in the image. And sometimes I like to work with something in the foreground also, but I prefer to work with something quite far off. In landscape photography, you see that this quite a lot actually, which is called hero shots, especially like
Uh-huh.
you can see from like Iceland and from Argentina, and beautiful landscape images, and then maybe somewhere in the image, deep on in the left corner or right corner or somewhere, there's a person standing, but you can barely see the person. And
Right.
that's kind of the shots that I try to recreate underwater, because I'm a landscape photographer also,
Uh-huh.
and I'm really it's my favorite shots to. If I'm gonna look at other people's images, I like seeing great hero shots. Those are very inspiring because they make me wanna be there,
Hmm.
and that's the idea of my photography. Like I want the viewer to wanna be where when they look at my image, I want them to feel that, oh, I wish I was there. That's the whole idea of my imagery in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, especially, and these are not very easy to get to places sometimes.
No, no, especially not in mines and caves. I mean, we can go hundreds and sometimes thousands of meters into the mines and caves, and yeah, it takes a lot of training and discipline and a good team and knowledge to do those kind of dives. And then once you get in there, maybe you set a scene and you work in there for half an hour or something, and then you have another hour out, and then decompression after that.
Right.
So yeah, it can be very advanced diving, but so fun.
If it's not fun, then why do it? Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and there's so many astonishing places in the world to see, and there's so many hidden treasures. I mean, everywhere. It's so great to explore these underwater sceneries and caves.
do you ever see do you see in the future as using the Liberty as a bailout rebreather? I know that's been kind of a hot topic that we've been talking about, our bailout rebreathers and how they can be pretty helpful. I imagine to have a unit that's knows that it's a bailout unit may be pretty handy, especially focusing on so you can focus on your work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, why carry 8 tanks if you can just carry 2 rebreathers instead? I mean, sounds pretty convenient to me.
Hmm.
At this point, I wouldn't hesitate jumping on to side mount Liberty. And I think I've seen one of your guys that I think dives dual side mount Liberty. And I guess
Yeah, yeah.
who's
There's a
that?
couple people that are
Yeah, a couple of
utilizing
people. Yeah.
that. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Do they switch from one to like you do on a side mount where you switch every
Yeah.
10 minutes or something?
So there's kind of like basically it's kind of a combination of two dual side mount units,
Yeah.
and they're kind of moving back and forth. They'll
Yeah.
have an like open circuit gas as well in case of a
Yeah.
rapid
Of course.
emergency. They can jump to open circuit and then go to the rebreather.
Yeah.
So it's definitely seems to be in
Yeah.
the future.
That's definitely the future. I think seems extremely convenient, and especially since you're always maintaining both rebreathers all the time. I mean, and breathing in them every 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever you switch. I mean, yeah,
A
I
little bit
wouldn't
of
be
task
scared of
loading.
trying. Yeah, but it would be fine.
So for someone that says that, you know, they can be a little bit afraid of going into cold, dark places and going and taking these huge photos in caves and mines,
Yeah.
you know, do you just kind of, because like that's a common thing that I hear about, is that people are just terrified of caves. You know, would you say anything about that to people that are kind of afraid or apprehensive of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you learn how to if you're gonna learn how to ski, you don't put the person in a black diamond pit the first time. That's
Right.
pretty
They'll hate
obvious
it
to
then.
me anyway. Exactly, they will hate it because they're gonna be so scared. So they're gonna take the ski lift down, or they're gonna ski down and kind of get very injured. So it's the same with diving. I mean, you have to build slowly, slowly. I have almost 30 years of experience, so I think it's really important that you just start slow. I was so afraid of that. 30 meters was really deep for me
Mm.
until 12 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
like 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. 30 meters, that was like, it was so scary. Even I've been diving for almost 15 years then. I was so scared doing deep dives because I didn't have any experience from it. And
Yeah.
then you start doing a couple of 30-meter dives and you get comfortable with that. And then you start slowly doing a couple of 40-meter dives. And then I got comfortable with that, and so on. And you make these small increments all the time. And once you're down at 50, then it's kind of, and you're starting to have long decompressions, like half an hour to 1.5 hour, then you're starting to realize that overhead environment is, this is, I'm already doing
You're
overhead
already, yeah.
environment, exactly, because I have this invisible thing. So so the transition was extremely natural, for me anyway. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're an open water diver and you rush to dive master and then you start doing your cave courses like a year later, yeah, I can see that it can be a little bit scary in the beginning with mines and everything, because I mean, diving is second nature to me. I mean, for me, diving is not harder than breathing.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically, and breathe is pretty simple.
And it's because you've taken your time, I think, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Yeah. So take your time, do it slowly, and just and let things come to you naturally. And yeah, and that's how it was for me. So
And you know,
it's
that's great. And I think it's really cool that you're like, oh yeah, it's, I'm very cautious and apprehensive about it, because like it's not simple dives, and let alone you're taking pictures, and it's not just going and taking pictures. They're very good pictures that are very coordinated with lighting and whatnot and people in place. And so
yeah, a
it's
lot of gear
definitely,
also.
well, exactly. We haven't even talked about the gear, right? I mean, you know, flying with
No,
the gear is easy, no?
yeah, I mean, I came to Mexico now with 125 kilos, and basically all that goes on me in the water. So, it's, or me or my buddies. So we carry a lot of stuff. And some dives, I've had a couple of really bad dives. I mean, where the task loading is just like maximum. You have too many things everywhere, and there's hanging big things on you everywhere, and you look like a Christmas tree, and you're going through a restriction, and maybe get caught in the restriction, and your legs are slightly upwards, so you're starting to get hair in your
Feet.
feet in the dry suit, which is not a great situation, but that's when you have a great buddy, or you just stay calm and just untangle yourself and move on. I mean, I think it comes to these big tasks and big task loads. I think keeping calm and just staying slow is always gonna win. And that's something I don't have super much experience in deep diving. I've
Mm-hmm.
maybe done like 10 dives deeper than 75 meters.
Uh-huh.
But when I do these dives, I've done a couple of 80-meter dives on the Liberty, and I get the deeper I go, I get more calm. The deeper I go, because
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a sense of also increased focus,
Right.
and you're trying to be more aware, and you're checking your bails and everything. And but still, I took a few pretty good shots actually, even at 80 meters a couple of weeks ago. So I can still stay focused because I have so much experience in the photography that the photography is like comes like second nature to me. So I can purely focus on the diving, and I basically just need to hold up the camera and press the trigger if I have briefed the divers of what they were going to do with the lights before we entered the place. So yeah, no, it's yeah.
Would you say now? Would you say that happened? It definitely didn't happen overnight. I mean, it's almost like you're really coming into your form now because you took your time and just kind of built on it built on your diving, your photography, and then now it's like you have this experience that you can rely on, and so the technology's there with the cameras, the lighting, the rebreather. It's and the rebreather is such an incredible tool for basically buying you time.
Yeah. It's incredible. I mean, on the Liberty, I think I'm quite high usage on oxygen because I'm not so, let's say, I'm not so preservative with my oxygen. I use a lot, and I sometimes push up the O2 even on shallower depths higher than 0.7, even though I don't have to. But just to give me more window in case something fails, then drop down to 0.16 is much longer if I'm at 1.0 instead of 0.7.
Right.
So I use a lot of oxygen, but I can still squeeze out probably 4 hours on a 2-liter oxygen tank.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I'm using a lot of oxygen, and in reality, you're really not.
No, but using a lot compared to other divers.
Yeah,
I could never do a 7-hour dive on the Divesoft Liberty, which I'm sure you have many people that can do probably.
Well, and
probably Melody. She's very light.
yeah, she's small enough, right?
On oxygen.
The 2-liter bottles. I mean, it may not be. And it may not be a lot of gas, but and over time with the rebreathers, you get more efficient at it, as well as being able to offboard, and you're basically just utilizing the system. And so with offboarding, now you can use as much gas as you need, and duration is really limited by scrubber. And then never mind if we start talking about decompression rebreathers, and so. It's really exciting time, I think, for rebreathers.
And the beauty, what I do like about the Liberty is also that you can hand over the unit to your buddy. Basically, let's say your buddy has to bail out or something like that, and he might get like an hour longer decompression than you because you didn't have optimized gases or something
right.
like that.
I mean, it's
then I can hand over the rebreather to my buddy, and he could continue doing his decompression on my rebreather while I either go up or I go over to open circuit because maybe he needs it for the warmth or just to put the
for the time. I mean, the important thing is that you do have the flexibility. Whether or whatnot the planning is there, or the procedures. It's 2 clips and a mouthpiece, right? I don't have to I don't have to change my harness or anything.
No, and all the gases on board and everything. That's super convenient. Really love it.
So, do you have any? So, in Tulum, in Mexico, in the Yucatan, what kind of projects are you working on now?
We're fine-tuning my side mount a little bit here at ProTech, and then I will also do some test shooting for video, because I've had a professional video camera for about a year now, but I haven't used it super much. And I need to get in video a little bit more. So I'm doing a lot of video training. And so that's the main focus on this trip. But of course, I'm going to I have my stills camera with also. So I will do a couple of dives where we definitely take some epic stuff. I need to see a few more new cenotes that I haven't seen. And we're going to also revisit some of my favorites from last trip. So it will be a combination of video and photography and some old cenotes and some new stuff.
Well, that's extremely exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get I need to get Becky and Jill and Marissa and you all in a big Divesoft photography team and whatnot, or Divesoft videography team. You know,
Yeah, that would be so cool.
maybe that'll be a good series that we can do. You know, and so
Yeah,
something down the road. But
cool.
yeah, this is an actual shot from of you taking some pictures of Melody in Angelita Cave or Angelita Cenote in Mexico last year.
Yeah.
And so that was a good time. We had a blast.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many pictures from that cenote on Facebook and on Instagram over the years, and I just had to go there. And it was just as spectacular as I thought, even though we were a little bit unlucky because I think we had overcast that day, so we didn't have much light coming down. I remember being very high on the ISO, and we worked a little bit with off-camera lighting, and
right.
We got definitely some good stuff from there.
Yeah, it was a little bit complicated with the clouding and whatnot, and then, but I mean, I thought you know, I remember the whole dive, I was just like trying to keep my mouth closed because I was just like, just you know, the size of the rooms and everything. It's just, it's wonderful. So I always recommend everyone go and visit. It's in that cloud, you know, it's the hydrogen sulfide layer. It's around a big pile of detritus, and so it's very ominous. And you know, you can imagine what it made me think of, you know, ancient times where people would swim down and they would see this cloud and they would probably think it's probably the underworld or something spooky. You know,
it looks pretty scary.
Yeah, it does. It's like, I don't want to go through that. That's okay.
Yeah. You could almost imagine a couple of tombstones sticking out of the cloud.
Yeah, if I would see that, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, that's where that belongs. Well, it's been a wonderful time. I'm so happy you got to join us. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning, but it's been a really good time. I hope you have an awesome time. I'd love to see some shots and videos from your trips. And so I look forward to seeing what you guys have in the future and whatnot.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it was great being on the show, and I hope to visit again.
Yeah, definitely. We'll show you some Florida caves. We have a little bit more flow than we do in the Yucatan. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you to everyone that tuned in today. Be sure to like and share and comment below. And yeah, we'll see you again. We'll see you next week. We'll have an exciting show for you guys on Divesoft TV. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks. Bye.